Canto 5. Summary. The previous canto ended with the pilgrim asking whether one could make amends for breaking a vow with good works. Beatrice answers this question with an account of man's free will, especially as it relates to vows. God's greatest gift to man and to the angels is the freedom of his will, the freedom to make real choices, the freedom from a puppet-like necessity. It is at this point that, as his image-bearers, man most closely resembles God. And because this is the greatest gift, the use of that gift to make a vow gives those vows their considerable worth. A vow is, essentially, the self-sacrifice of one's will, either in part, as in pledging a certain amount of money, or in whole, as with monastic vows. Given the high value of this vow, Beatrice asks how anything could compensate for a broken vow. There is nothing so valuable, so as to be a fitting substitute, which would allow someone like Constance, for instance, to make amends. To make such a sacrifice, and then to use that same sacrificial gift, which has already been surrendered to God, to make amends for your broken vow, does not make sense. It would be, Beatrice explains, like using stolen money to pay down a debt. No, a vow must always be kept. But how then are the special dispensations that the Church grants to be explained? Based on Old Testament law, see Leviticus 27, the Church makes a distinction between the vow itself and the thing vowed. The vow must always be kept, but the thing vowed can be exchanged. However, what is substituted must be half again as valuable as what was originally vowed. The value of the original must be contained in the value of the substitute, as 4 in 6. Here we see the problem with Piccarda and Constance. The original object vowed to God was their whole person. No substitute would be fitting to replace that which they had promised. Speaking now to all Christians, Beatrice warns us, therefore, not to take vows lightly, but to be much slower in making promises, considering the value and importance of what is being sacrificed. Jephthah and Agamemnon are held up as examples of men who vowed lightly and reaped the consequences. As she finishes, the pair race upward into the second realm, the sphere of Mercury. Dante the poet describes how the sphere itself brightens and intensifies as Beatrice, in all her radiant beauty, joins herself to it. As they arrive, thousands of shining souls surround them, and one in particular addresses Dante. As we will find out in the following canto, it is the soul of Justinian, the 6th century emperor, who completely revised Roman law, unifying all its variations. As Dante questions him, his brightness intensifies so that his already shining form is concealed in the gleaming light. The canto ends on the verge of Justinian's reply. Canto 5. Moon and Mercury. If I flame forth to you in warmth of love beyond the mode one sees upon the earth, thus vanquishing the power of your sight, you must not marvel, for this warmth proceeds from perfect seeing, which, as it apprehends, so it shifts its feet toward the good perceived. I clearly see within your intellect already shining the eternal light, which, seen, alone and always kindles love. And if that love is lured by something else, it is nothing if not some trace of this eternal light, ill known, which filters through. You wish to know if with some other work one can, for empty vows, so compensate that the soul is secured from legal suit. And so Beatrice began this canto, continuing her sacred train of thought, as one who does not interrupt his speech. The greatest gift that God, creating, gave, from his largesse, that which is valued most, conformed most closely to his excellence, was liberty and freedom of the will, with which the creatures of intelligence, both all and only, were and are equipped. Now will appear, if you reason from this, the vow's high worth, if made in such a way that God himself consents when you consent. For with bonds fixed between both God and man, this treasure, as I call it, next is made a victim, and made so by its own act. What then can one return to compensate? When you think to use well what you gave up, you attempt good deeds with extorted goods. You now are certain of the greater point, but since Holy Church grants exemptions here, which seems to contradict the truth I speak, you must remain at table longer still, because the dense food you have taken in demands assistance to help you digest. Open your mind to what I now reveal and fix it there within. To understand without retaining it, no knowledge makes. Two things come together in the essence of this sacrifice. First, what is promised, and second, the sworn covenant itself. This covenant can never be annulled except by keeping it. Concerning this I previously, with precision, spoke. Thus it still was needful for the Hebrews to sacrifice, though that which was offered might sometimes be changed, as you ought to know. The former, which has been revealed to you as what one promises, might well be such that no one errs if it should be exchanged. But let none shift his shoulders' weighty load by his own will, though free, without the turn both of the white and of the yellow key. And let him think that all substitutions mad, if that which is dismissed is not contained, and what is taken up, as 4 in 6. Therefore, whatever weighs with its own worth so heavy that it draws down every scale, cannot with other outlay be fulfilled. Let not mortals take the vow so lightly. Be faithful, and not in pledging squint-eyed, as was Jephthah with his first offering. More fitting for him to say, I did wrong, than keeping make it worse. In such folly may you trace the great captain of the Greeks, whence Iphigenia wet her fair face, when both simple and wise were made to weep, who heard tell of such an act of worship. Christians, be slower in moving forward. Do not be as a wing on every wind, nor think that every water cleanses you. You have the New and the Old Testaments, and the shepherd of the church who guides you. Let this be enough for your salvation. If wicked greed shouts other things at you, be you men, and not ridiculous sheep, that the Jew in your midst might not scorn you. Act not like the lamb, silly and lustful, abandoning the milk of its mother, fighting with itself for its own pleasure. Thus Beatrice to me, just as I write. Then she turned herself, fully desiring, toward that part where the world is most alive. Her stillness and her transformed countenance placed a silence on my desirous mind, with new questions already before it. And just as the arrow that hits the mark even before the string is made quiet, so we sped upward to the second realm. Then I saw my lady so full of joy when she placed herself in that heaven's light. The planet in itself shone all the more. And if the star itself did change and laugh, what became of me, who am mutable in every way by my very nature? As in a fish pond, both tranquil and pure, the fish are drawn to what comes from outside in such a way they think it is their food. So I saw more than 1,000 splendors drawing toward us, and from each one was heard, Behold there, one who will increase our loves. And as each one was advancing toward us, its shade appeared to be full of gladness in the bright flashing that issued from it. Think, reader, if that which is here begun does not proceed further, how you would have an anguished appetite for knowing more. And you will see for yourself how it was, my desire to hear from these of their state, as soon as they were revealed to my eyes. O well-born, to whom grace has permitted to see thrones of eternal triumph before you abandon your soldiering, by the light which through all heaven extends are we kindled. If you therefore desire we enlighten you, satisfy your wish. So one of those pious spirits hailed me, and Beatrice, speak, speak with assurance, believe as one who speaks with deities. I see well how you have nested yourself within your own light, and how you draw it through your eyes, for they sparkle as you laugh. But I do not know who you are, nor why, worthy soul. You have the grade of this sphere, hidden from mortals by another's rays. I said this, turning toward the gleaming light that had spoken to me previously, at which it beamed far brighter than it had. Just like the sun, keeping itself hidden through too much light, when its heat has consumed the tempering virtue of thick vapors, so the holy figure concealed himself from me within his ray through greater joy, and thus enclosed he answered me in the way the following canto sings.